Hey, what's up guys, Alex here. Thank you for checking this video and welcome to the episode number 19 of the series of tutorials on how to build a premium theme for WordPress. Welcome again. In this tutorial, we're going to take a look on how to start styling our blog post, our blog loop in the index, and how to handle all the different post formats that a user could use inside our sunset theme. So let's access, first of all, the administration panel, and let's insert, as I already did here, a standard post type or something, like just input a little bit of content. I created this standard blog post called the standard post type, put a little bit of gibberish inside, and activated the excerpt, put a bunch of tags, selected the standard format, and created a category called live. What we're missing here is the featured image, so let's start with that. Let's access our theme support page, and let's create here by remaining inside the theme support options just right after the option to activate the custom background, the add theme underscore support brackets inside a single quote post dash thumbnails and semicolon at the end. This is an option that we didn't code in the backend. We didn't give the user the ability to activate or deactivate the post thumbnails because we want it as a default option. We want to always constantly active. We don't want to give the user the ability to deactivate it. Otherwise, in my opinion, our theme is going to look a little bit ugly. So let's always keep it open. Let's go back in our administration panel. Let's refresh this page. And of course, now we have the option here for the featured image. Let's set a featured image. In my case, I have a picture. I downloaded a picture for this tutorial. Of course, you can upload whatever picture you want. You can extract the picture that you can find inside the design file, or use your own pictures to upload a featured image. But anyway, let's update this one and let's update this blog post. Now we have a blog post with all the elements that we need to print whatever we want in the front end. The other thing that I want to do here now, because in the future I'm gonna style all the different post formats, I want to access my sunset administration panel and check on the theme options all the post formats that I'm gonna style during these series of tutorials. So now if we go back in our posts and we select the standard post title, we're gonna have the full list of post format that we can in the future, slowly during these tutorials, create new post format and check and select all these different post format types and create a specific template option for this post format. So now this one is the first one, is the standard, and we're good to go to style our theme. Let's access the front end. What we have to do, we have to style the body part. We have to create a container, use the bootstrap, CSS style, the bootstrap markup to create a container, and all this kind of good stuff. So let's keep going. Let's access back our text editor. Let's access our index file. And in here, we can start coding our standard index. So I'm gonna follow the logic of a standard WordPress theme, and also in this case always remember to put the comment for your custom package at the beginning of your file, so everything is going to remain consistent and it's easier to track. So now we can create a div with ID primary, and we can call a class of content area. This is standard HTML code that you can find in every standard WordPress theme, like default theme, the 2015, the 2016, or the underscore theme from Automatic. So I'm gonna use this kind of logic, and then I'm gonna put inside the logic of WordPress my custom bootstrap code. So here I want to create another container, in this case an HTML5 markup main container to specify that this is a main area, and class, I want to specify that the class is site main, and I want to specify an HTML5 role called main. So our markup It's perfect. And of course, I don't need to put a comment here to specify this is the main array, because with the HTML5 markup, I already know it's closing the main array, but I need to put a comment here to know that this is the ID primary. Now inside here, we can start coding our custom markup that we want to use. And as I said, I'm going to use Bootstrap. So let's start with the div class container. Let's close it here. Let's copy the class. Let's put it as a comment at the end of the container here. And let's start writing a little bit of PHP code. So here, first, if standard block loop that we know and we love, have underscore posts. So if this function is true, it means that we have post, semicolon, and if to close, and if to close the if, so we're not gonna forget it. And if we have this kind of stuff, we can use while have post. So while is through, while we keep having post, column, let's initiate the posts. So we're gonna have everything collected and all this kind of stuff that we want. And here we can close the end while with a semicolon. Let's create a little bit of space. And here simply we just use a simple code that is the get template part with our brackets. Inside we have to specify as a first attribute the folder or the location where our post format is, and in our case is template parts, is this folder that we previously created. So let's use template dash parts slash content, that is the name, the initial name, the appendix of the file. And as a second parameter, we have to retrieve the post format, the actual post format of the current post that we are in the post loop. And to retrieve that, we have to use, of course, the function get underscore post underscore format, and open and close the brackets, and no parameters. So now what's gonna happen in this loop, every time there's a blog post, the get template part is gonna search inside the template parts folder a file called content dash whatever post format is this one. If, as in this case, we have a standard post format, so we're not using any post format, this function is gonna retrieve the content.php file. So that's the file that we have to write. Let's access our file 3 inside here. Let's create a new file called content.php. Let's access this file, and as usual, let's copy paste the initial part of code and let's paste it here. And maybe if I open correctly the PHP tag, it will work. And here we can write a super simple comment that I don't want to occupy that huge space. Standard post format. That's it. And now we can write our cool stuff. So let's open the HTML5 markup to write an article. So here we have an article. Oh, first of all, of course, let's close the PHP tag because we don't want that write HTML inside PHP, right? Let's specify an ID. And as usual, we have to specify post dash. Let's open the PHP tag and let's print the ID of this current post. So we're gonna have post dash 3, post dash 4, post dash 6, post dash 2000, whatever ID. We have a custom unique ID based on the ID of the post. And then let's print the actual post class because we need the post class to customize properly our blog post. Post underscore class and semicolon. So all these functions, did and post class, are printing automatically whatever information they retrieve. I'm not putting any echo because automatically the functions are returning and printing whatever information. If I was going to use, instead of did, I was going to use get did, this function needs an echo if I want to print whatever value is going to return, because the getDid is necessary. It's used mostly to store this value inside a variable, so to not print whatever value. And this is a kind of generic rule for WordPress. So if a function has at the beginning get, it means that it's not printing anything. If a function has just the name of the function, it means it's returning automatically whatever value is retrieving. And this is a generic rule mostly inside the blog loop. So try to remember that. Let's close the article tag and let's close the article markup. Inside here, we can start write a little bit of HTML5 stuff. So let's create the header class. Let's use entry header. Also in this case, I'm writing standard WordPress markup that you can find pretty much everywhere. After I print the standard markup and I check that all the information of my blog are being printed correctly, I can edit this markup to add my custom style, my custom bootstrap style, and custom markup. So let's just simply use this one. So in the entry header, of course, we have to write PHP class here, PHP function to call the title. And in this case, we don't have the get, so it's going to print automatically. Inside, we want to remove the last attribute. The first attribute is the before attribute. So before the value, I want my usual h1 tag that I like a lot, and class, I want the entry dash title. And as an after string, I want to close the h1 tag. Save it, semicolon at the end. And here we can use div class entry dash meta, because I'm gonna print in here all my metadata. And here we can create, instead of printing all the information manually, I mean, instead of writing posted and then writing something to retrieve the date and the actual code to extract the number of days have been passed since the day of publishing, and then printing the category with the function, the category of WordPress, I can write a function and create a function that it's going to be stored in my functions.php file or another file to call that function wherever I want, whenever I want. And if I have to update something, instead of going manually inside every file and update this portion of code, I can just update the source function. So it's way more efficient, it's way more productive focus. So let's open the PHP tags and let's create the name of the function that we're going to code right on anyway. It's going to be sunset underscore posted underscore meta. Open and close the brackets. We don't want to pass any variable inside this function. And before checking and keeping going, let's copy this function and let's go inside our Inc folder, and we can access the file theme support.php. Here we want to create another section and we want to maintain this file. Of course, you can create your own custom file called, for example, custom function or sunset-functions. But because this function is related to post format and the post format is related to a theme support option, I want to maintain everything in the same location and everything more tight and easy to navigate and easier to retrieve. So let's create another separation here. First of all, let's write function. Let's paste our custom function, open and close the brackets, curly brackets here. Let's copy these comment because we want to keep, as usual, our style consistent. And this is our blog loop custom function. So in here we can put all the custom functions that we're gonna use to print whatever information we want inside our blog loop. So here for now, just to avoid any error, we can return just an empty string. So the code is gonna call a function that in our case exists, and we're gonna have just an empty string. Or if we want, we can return category name and publishing time. So we're gonna have this. So super simple PHP lesson about this. If we use return, this one, the function, needs an echo because return doesn't print anything. If we echo the result or whatever value or whatever string we have inside the function, when we call the function, we don't need to put the echo because the echo is inside the function. But by default, by standard, it's always good to have a return inside a function, a custom function, because you don't know if you have to print this value every time or you have to store into a variable. If you have an echo here and you want to store these value inside a variable, you can't. It won't work. It will trigger an error. It will echo your parameter. It will print your parameter in the front end. So always use a return, and because we want to print it, let's use the echo before the function. So we're gonna print whatever value is returned by this function. Let's keep coding, and after the header here, let's create a div class entry dash content. Let's close this div, and of course here, because it's a standard div, let's put the class as a comment. Let's save it. Let's open here, and here I want to print two things. I want to print, if we access the source code, I want to print the featured image with a nice container and the excerpt of my blog post. So let's go back here, and first of all, let's check if we have a featured image. So let's create a little bit of space. Let's open the PHP tags here, and let's code if open the brackets has underscore post thumbnail. No parameters needs to be input. We don't need to input the post ID because we are inside the post loop, so the ID is automatically passed to this function. Let's put column, and let's close right on the and if, so we're not gonna forget, and we can stay inside the boundaries of our conditional statement. So if has the post thumbnail, I want to create a div class standard featured. Close the div, and here we can open again the PHP tags and print automatically the post underscore thumbnail. Boom, bam, boom. Okay, save it. And now here we can just create another container called div class entry excerpt div, and here we can again open the PHP tags and just write the excerpt, and we don't need to pass any value, and we put the semicolon at the end. Let's save it. Let's go back in our front end and let's see if we trigger any PHP error with whatever we did. So let's refresh it, and now we have all the information that we retrieved, that we are asking WordPress to retrieve. So we have the title, we have the whatever results we're gonna have from our custom function, we have the featured image. Of course, we are retrieving it in full size, so this featured image is massive and is printing entirely. And then we have the excerpt that I specified here. So before styling this stuff and making everything look better and everything look as the design, I wanna finish to populate the information of my single blog post. And in this case, I have to put the read more button that is gonna point to the actual title, to the actual link of the blog post, and this bottom part that is pretty much standard for every blog post, where we have the list of tags and the amount of comments related to that specific blog post. So let's keep going. Let's access again our text editor, and here right after the entry content we have to create the footer area of our custom blog post, so our standard blog post. So in this case, again, HTML5 markup to use footer because it's the footer area of this article. And we can use the standard class entry footer. Let's close the footer tag. Let's open here. And here again, we can use a custom function because these footer area, these bottom area here, it's repeated. It's always constantly the same for every type of blog post. So we're gonna call this section every time in every blog post. And for the same reason that I created a custom function for the entry meta, because it's always the same. If I want to update something, I can update just inside a function. I have to create a custom function as usual also for the entry footer. And let's do that. Let's duplicate this code. Let's paste it here. And instead of sunset posted meta, we can use sunset posted footer. So we are gonna have that. Let's access the team support and let's duplicate this function and let's use sunset posted footer. And let's use tags list and comment link. Let's go back in our content.php before the entry footer, just before the closing of the entry content. We have to print a custom link that points to the actual URL of the blog post. So in this case, we have to create a container again, div class button container. Let's close the div. And here we can use an href, and here we can print within the PHP tags the permalink, and we don't have to pass any variable inside the permalink function. In here we can specify just standard class. Maybe we want to specify the standard class of Bootstrap, button default, and we don't want to specify anything else. Let's close it here. And here, instead of manually write read more, instead of manually write this like read more, we can do a kind of safer way to print some HTML stuff inside. So we could use just simply the function of WordPress to extrapolate whatever HTML in a safer way. And the function is _e. Let's open the brackets. Inside here, we can write our custom text, whatever, something that the user cannot edit. So in my case, it's read more and semicolon at the end. This is a safer way of printing text that cannot be edited by the user. So let's stick with that here. Also, there's a small error. So let's put button default and not tbn. Save it. Let's access back our front end and let's refresh the page. And now, of course, we're seeing at the bottom, we have the button here, read more, that if we click, it's gonna point to the standard post title. Of course, we don't have the actual page template, the actual PHP file to handle a single blog post, but it works. So it's pointing to the right blog post. We are printing the right blog post information, and we can confirm that it's working. So now let's create the function to print the category name and the publishing time. Let's access back our text editor. Let's access the theme support page, the theme support file, and here, instead of returning this stuff, just like delete for now. And in the posted meta, let's start retrieving all the information that we want. So first we have to return a specific string with a specific code. So I want this to use a specific structure. So in my case, I want a span with a class called posted-on. Let's close this tag, close this span tag, and then the other tag that I want inline is another span class posted in. Let's close the span, and here we can create let's close the span, and here we can create a little bit of space for our PHP variables with our information. So here is the posted on, and here we have the space for the posted in. So posted on is gonna get the date, and in my case, it's gonna get the number of days that are passed since the blog posts have been published, and here posted in is the category name. So let's retrieve those information. First of all, let's retrieve the time string. And to do that, it's really simple because WordPress has a built-in function for that, and it's amazing. I don't know when this function was implemented, but it's just so simple and so easy to use that it's just mind-blowing. So we have to just create a variable called $posted _on, that is of course posted, that of course has the same name of the location where it's gonna be used. And here we have to use a function called human _time_diff, that is stand for human time difference. So it's gonna check the difference between two different values of time. And of course we have to pass two attributes. The first attribute is from, so when it starts the count, and the second attribute is to, so when it stops the count. And to do that, we have to just check the current time and then the timestamp of the blog post. So let's put here, to get the current time, we can get _the time, and here we have to use the type of time, and in our case we want to specify U, because U is the Unix value of the timestamp that we need to retrieve. We need to retrieve this time in the specific timestamp format, not the actual date like day, month, and year, but in the timestamp format, because we have to compare this information with the current timestamp. So at the current _time, we have to print the current time also in the timestamp format. And at the end, we can input with, we can connect a custom string with the word ago, with the dot, of course, because this human time difference is gonna just return like 2 days or 3 days or 9 hours or whatever. Let's save it. Let's copy the posted on, let's print it here. And now what we have to do, we have to retrieve the category. And to retrieve the category, of course, also in this case, we have WordPress that can do everything for us. Let's create a little bit of space here. Let's put a / because if I check my source file, I have posted 4 days ago / category name. And if we check the different type of font, here is darker because I want these 4 days to be a link, a clickable link, and the category name to be a clickable link. So I don't want this posted and ago to be clickable. So let's change a little bit this code. Let's put everything that is not clickable outside the variable. So posted space variable, let's put a link here, href. Let's encapsulate this variable inside a custom link. And here has another way of accessing the blog post. We can print the URL, the permalink of the blog post by escaping the URL inside this function and getting the get permalink. Let's open and close the brackets. So now these 2 days ago is gonna point directly to the permalink of our blog post. Now we have to retrieve the categories. And to do that, we have to just simply write inside the return the _category. And inside here, I wanna just specify the separator that has to be something that can manage multiple categories, because of course in my design file I always have just the best case scenario, so just in case the user has one single category, but could happen that the user decides to put a blog post inside multiple categories, so we have to manage also that aspect. And I want just simply to be a list of categories separated by a comma and then a space. So if we have multiple categories, we're gonna have the list of categories with comma and the space. And we did the function basically. Here we have the posted on. When we retrieve the information, we're printing this posted on inside this span class, and we're returning everything plus the category. Let's save it and let's see if we broke something in our source code. Let's refresh it, and now we have live posted 3 months ago, because that's insane, because it's the date that I manually input to post it here. So here something funny is happening. Basically, it's happening that because I'm using the category is echoing whatever it wants before I can return the function. So that's why it's not getting printed here. What we have to do, we have to get the category inside a variable and then put this return this list of categories inside the return value. To do that, we have to extend a little bit the function, and let's access back here and let's create a variable called $categories that it's equal to get the underscore category. We don't have to specify any ID because this function is inside the block loop, so it's like inheriting the ID from the block loop. Then we want to specify a custom variable called separator, and I want the separator to be the same separator that I specified before in the function, that is a comma and a space, semicolon to close the variable, and then I want to create a variable called output, where I'm gonna store all the output of my categories plus the separator. I'm gonna trim everything, and the output variable starts empty, completely empty. Now here we have to create a function to check if our categories variable is not empty. So as usual, exclamation mark empty, and inside here categories. I don't want to start the function to retrieve the categories if the categories list is empty. So if the user didn't check any type of categories, or if there's an error inside WordPress and cannot retrieve the list of categories by itself, we avoid to use this specific function, and we avoid memory, we avoid to trigger errors and all this kind of stuff. So, and if here, inside here, we can use a for each function to loop inside the full amount of categories. And here we can open and close the brackets, and here we have to specify the categories variable that stores inside, has inside all the list of categories, and we have to specify has to put the single variable that is going to store every single category that we're going to loop in, category. Here semicolon, and here we can specify and for each, and semicolon at the end. So this for each, what it's doing is grabbing, for example, if inside the categories variables we have 3 different categories, is going to loop 3 times, and every time is going to apply that specific category to the variable category. Let's start populating the output with all the information that we want. And of course, because we want to add whatever amount of categories we have to the output, we have to put a dot before the equal, so it's gonna add and it's not gonna replace the variable. Semicolon here, and let's start writing our href equal. Let's interrupt the output variable. Let's dot, and let's escape the URL of this get the category underscore link, and here we have to specify the ID of the category to get the proper link. To specify the ID of the category, we can access the category variable that is defined here in the for each loop, and access one level inside the object to retrieve the term ID that it contains the ID of the category. So these get the category links is gonna get the permalink, the URL, and this escape URL is gonna safely print this information inside our output inside the href tag. Inside here we can use the alt value, double quotes, single quote, and inside here again PHP. Let's connect with this escape again attribute. Here we want to specify, and the escape attribute are 2 attributes. The first one is the view all posts in percentage s, and the second value of the escape attribute is whatever value is gonna be replaced inside s, and in my case is the category, always the single value, and we access the object to retrieve the name of the category. Let's keep going. Let's close the a tag. Let's close the a tag container, and inside here, let's of course, as usual, do the same thing we did before. So we can copy the alt attribute and copy here and paste it here, because of course we want here the category name, but we don't want escape the attribute. We don't want this info before. We want to just escape the HTML, that is the format that we want to print our name, and we have to remove all this gibberish. We don't have a first attribute. We have just escape HTML and the category name to be print. So let's save it. Now here we want to add the separator that we want to add in between the different links, but we have to check if these categories list is the categories for each has just only one value or more than one value, and add the separator only if we have more than one value. So let's create another variable here called I that I'm gonna start as a 1. So I want these I to be an integer, and here before the end of every for each I want to increase the I variable of 1. So I'm gonna put plus plus. So this one every for each is gonna be 1 at the beginning, then it's gonna be 2, it's gonna be 3, 4, and based on how many for each loop we have inside here. And at the beginning of the for each loop I can create an if check, and I can do an if to check if the dollar variable is bigger than 1. It means that at least one loop happened, and we are going right now into the second loop. We can, and if we can implement inside the output variable the separator variable. So every time we loop, if the $I, the variable I, is bigger than 1, it means that it's looping more than one time. The output we have to insert before the separator, that is going to be comma and space, so we can separate nicely our list of categories. And now here we have to just simply grab the output variable and replace it with the category. Save it. Let's go back in our front end. Let's refresh it. And we have an error here, parse error, expecting a single quote on line 57. So I did a mistake on line 57 here, of course, separator, and if, of course, we need a semicolon instead of colons. Sorry guys, let's go back here, refresh it, and now it's worked. So it's working. So now we have posted 3 months ago /live. This one is pointing to the standard post title, to the actual permalink. This one is pointing to the category live, that of course we don't have the page, but the permalink is correct. And what we can do, we can just as a test access the backend and create a new category called maybe updates, and then add this category, and let's check it also update and see what's going on in our front end. Let's refresh it. Now we have live, comma, space, update. And that's perfect. So now we can use this function that we created, sunset posted meta, to call it in whatever location we want. And as soon as we want to change the structure of this visualization, we have to do it just in one place inside our functions.php file, and that is really handy. So it's pretty much it for today's lesson. In the next lesson, we're gonna see how to properly style these horrendous blog post and to complete the first standard post title, and then we're gonna see how to use in a smart way the code that we created, the code that we generated, to create in the fastest way possible the other post formats that we activated. So thank you again guys for checking this video. As usual, if you liked it, please give it a thumbs up or subscribe to my channel, or if you want, you can spend a couple of minutes to check the support me page in my website, where you can find all different ways to support me, support my channel, and help me to do better video and better content for you. Thank you again guys for checking this video, and as usual, until the next lesson, happy coding!